Lesson 1. Building the right foundation. Our platform has helped entrepreneurs around the world strategize and execute their startup plans across a variety of industries. We have had over 1,000 startups go through our program and successfully raise over $1 billion of investment. Through these journeys, we have been able to pinpoint common pitfalls that steer an entrepreneur off track. To begin your entrepreneurial journey, we will start by focusing on building the right foundation for your startup. In this lesson, you're going to learn critical information that will help you save time, avoid headaches, and ultimately ensure your startup builds the strongest possible foundation to succeed in the future. Amongst other factors, there is one thing that successful companies such as Apple, Amazon, and Tesla have in common. They all started with a solid foundation. Together, we will establish the core of your business that you will later build your solid foundation upon. Starting a business is both exciting and nerve-wracking. According to Forbes magazine, 90% of startups fail. That's scary. Luckily, there are ways for you to prepare and work to be among the 10% that do survive. The people on our team have started many businesses over the years and around the world. If we could sum up our experiences of the initial part of building or running a startup, we would tell you it's a bit like driving through a heavy fog, where you're only able to see up to a few feet in front of your windshield. You don't know what's up ahead until it's upon you. The longer you stick on the road of entrepreneurship, the better you will navigate through that fog. Once you are committed to an idea and have a core team, even if the team is currently only you, the first best step is to establish that firm foundation. Just like building a house, you need to lay your foundation in the best possible location, or you might end up like the next Leaning Tower of Pisa. Once the location is chosen, you need to work with a qualified architect and draftsperson to create the optimal design for the house itself. Then, you have to engage in a qualified contractor to dig, prepare the earth correctly, and perform the construction. Finally, putting the work together to shore up, lay out, pour, and harden a strong foundation. Once this is accomplished, only then you can start building your house on top of that right foundation. Location, location, location. Long before thinking about which part of town is best for your office, you need to decide which city, province, or state and country would be best. There's no point setting up a surf shop in the Sahara Desert, right? Didn't think so. There are actually two basic parts to the question of location. 1. Incorporation, and 2. Operation. Where to incorporate? Incorporation is when you register and file the necessary incorporation documents of the entity with the government in that location. The entity is a legal, non-natural person who needs to obey the law, pay its taxes, and to do no harm to workers or the environment. The directors and officers of the entity, for the moment, you, are responsible for making sure that the entity's behavior is as it should be. You will eventually have others working with you, or possibly in place of you, as directors and officers, and we will get to that later. Most people incorporate their entity where they live or where they want to live. If you do this, you might get lucky and incorporate in the best place for the type of entity that you will be building. For example, think about taxes. The complexity or ease of filing and how much tax you will need to pay, as well as government support grants and or subsidies, that is, free money, whether or not you can raise investment into that type of entity and in that geography, and there are many other considerations. Pause to consider the strength of the legal system to protect the entity and its shareholders. Singapore is a great example of the above. It has a strong legal and arbitration system that is favorable to entrepreneurs. Plus, the government has many programs and grants that are designed to help entrepreneurs succeed with their startups. To determine which place is optimal for you and your startup requires in-depth research. Consider working with a good lawyer and accountant to help you make this decision wisely. Where to operate? Where you actually register an office or offices and where you operate your business may or may not be in the same place. This is another thing to puzzle through with a good lawyer and a good accountant. A few other considerations you may want to note are: 1. The availability of workers. Would you have ready access to higher quality talent in the area, or might it need to be moved to the area? 2. The cost of living. Will you be able to afford to pay your workers? 3. Are you near your customers and is proximity to them important? 4. the availability, quality, and cost of office space if you require it. And 5. The ease and cost of travel in and out of the nearest airport, major motorways, railways, etc. Choosing a lawyer. Seek out the best lawyers and law firms. Use your network, the people you know who can guide you and make introductions, and interview lawyers and their firms. Be humble. Arrogance is never good, but be confident. When choosing your legal counsel, consider picking an individual or firm that is likely to take your business seriously. Sometimes a small but upcoming firm may be a better fit than a big, highly reputed one. Before you agree to work with a lawyer or law firm, make sure that you have the attention of a senior partner at the firm, even if it's for a few minutes. When you meet with a partner at the law firm, remember that you're not offering them project work for your incorporation. You're offering them a bigger opportunity than simple clerical work drawing off-the-shelf contracts. What you're offering them is a long-term relationship from the start, where you are now through to global mergers and acquisitions or public offerings. They will want to be part of your long-term play and win. Don't be too arrogant about it, but don't be too dreamy either. Be calm and confident about what you're planning and working to achieve, and what could be possible. When you position the opportunity to work with you as a long-term relationship and win for both parties, you're in a better position to negotiate for what you need immediately. For example, you can make it clear that you need the attention of a partner and a pool of talented lawyers such as their firm offers, that you see them as part of the team, and that you will message your network about their excellent work. And then add that you need to protect what cash you have in the bank. Therefore, you need the initial work from their lawyers and firm to be affordable. You might request to be billed at a junior associate rate, not the partner rate, which is much higher. Add that you'll not be billed for photocopies and staples and paper clips, but only for work. Which accountant? The same guidelines apply to accountants as they do for lawyers. Work with the best available to you. You need to get your financial and accounting information in order and keep everything in order as you go. Far too many entrepreneurs end up wasting valuable time and money with back financial planning and credible bookkeeping. We've seen our share of entrepreneurs in trouble as they hand over boxes of crumpled receipts, hoping that an accountant can save them and make sense of their financial mess after the fact. One of our founders' grandmothers was a superb cook, and her house was always in perfect order with seemingly little effort. She always said that the kitchen is easy to clean if you just clean each dish after you use it. Then when you sit down to eat, you only have the dishes on the table to clean and not a chaotic mess in the kitchen on top of it all. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Your accounts are the same. Keep track as you go, keep every receipt, and have someone who knows what they're doing keep track of every little detail. Just like your lawyer, negotiate with your accountant as well. Good accountants, just like good lawyers, want a long-term relationship. Treat your accountant as an important member of your team. Value their work, because a good accountant will save you money over time. Alternatively, you may consider engaging a corporate secretary instead. Increasing numbers of corporate secretarial firms boast in-house lawyers and accountants. Having both lawyer and accountant under the same roof serves to reduce your costs and keeps the communication loop of your team tighter than having to engage both separately. Bear in mind the above pointers for a good lawyer and accountant when interviewing the corporate secretarial team. What is in a name? Company name and domain name. The company name, as well as its products, services, and offerings, is important. There are a few rules of thumb that you should consider, but there are a million things that matter more. There is always time to come up with the right name. Don't invest too much time on the company or product name in the beginning. Instead, consider giving your idea a stealth project name like Project X, where X is the code word for your product or startup. Sometimes this helps to focus energies on what's important instead of getting distracted with coming up with the perfect name. Conversely, you may find yourself loving a particular name for your company or product or both, and the name may serve you as a catalyst for defining the product or company. Either which way, there is no right or wrong strategy. Go with the flow, and then eventually it should all come together. That being said, make sure that your company name is easy to pronounce, spell, and remember. The same goes for your domain name as well. Getting a domain name that is easy to spell and pronounce goes a long way. To the best of your ability, make sure that the name of your company does not have a negative meaning in major markets around the world. This is especially important if you aim to globalize your product and brand. Coca-Cola's brand name, when first marketed in China, was sometimes translated as "bite the wax tadpole." To avoid such blunders, consider using a service such as wordsafety.com to check. Consider looking for domains extensions beyond .com, such as .do, .io, and .ai. .ai is especially relevant if your product is using artificial intelligence. Once your incorporation, operation, lawyers, accountants, names, and other foundational basics are in order, then you should think about the mission-critical matter of ownership and crucial agreements. If your startup is still in the formation stage where you're brainstorming ideas, then an important document to consider is a pre-shareholders agreement, which simply solicits an initial commitment from your team members. If your startup is in the process of validation, execution, and getting more mature, then you will need to create a founder shareholders agreement. This is an agreement between the current owners of an entity and someone who is becoming a shareholder by investment. This document also spells out certain conditions like, if there are 2 or more founders, how much will each of you own in the entity? Describe each founder's roles and responsibilities in your startup. How firm is each of your commitment to the entity over time? From our experience, you should all earn your ownership over time. Here's why. Imagine the next morning your phone rings and it's your old partner asking for his $1 million because of the percentage you had agreed on when both of you founded the entity. Wait, what? If things like this happen, they can really jeopardize the possibilities of success of the entity. Earning your ownership over time, also known as vesting, protects founders from each other and aligns incentives so everybody focuses towards building a successful company. Here's an example to help you understand vesting better. Suppose you, the founder, has equity, also known as ownership, of 30% in the entity. The balance is taken by your co-founders, shareholders, and investors. You would earn this 30% equity typically over 4 years or 48 months as per most vesting contracts. In essence, you would earn 1/48 of the total equity percentage each month. At the end of 48 months, you will own all 30% of your equity. If at any point you, a co-founder or a strategic partner, is no longer in good standing and decide to leave, their vesting would stop at whatever month they depart unless otherwise governed by legal contract or determined by the board of directors. For example, if they leave in month 18, they would only receive 18 out of 48 of their percentage equity. Shareholders, on the other hand, who own equity through investment, do not vest over time but receive their equity once the shareholders' agreement is signed and money is received. The shareholders' agreement makes clear the investment and other relevant terms and conditions. Read the shareholders' agreement very carefully and get a lawyer to read it carefully for you. Don't wait. Things only become increasingly complicated if you fail to establish expectations and agreements between your founders from the get-go. Now you might be thinking, why do I need to get this done now? Shouldn't I be focusing on mission statements, vision, value, proposition, etc.? Ask yourself this. Should a couple expecting a child spend the entire 9 months thinking only about what college they want him to go to? No? Why not? It's because while college and plans around it are important, college is a secondary decision, something that will impact the baby well down the line. What's pressing now may be more immediate decisions, such as what they need for the child when they bring him home from the hospital. It might seem like common sense, but anyone who has had a baby will tell you it's not. Well, that's kind of what we're doing at this point. Focus on the more pressing issues and leave the less urgent tasks for later after you establish your base. You'll need to invest in those so-called boring things, such as the right legal structure for the entity, agreement between the founders, and choosing the optimal places to incorporate and operate. If you continue to put less important tasks first, you'll risk losing a lot of productive time and money. Avoidable expenses such as domain names, logos, and office space alone are enough to kill a startup, or at the very least, cause great distress within the business, especially arguments within the co-founders. This is one of the main reasons why startups fail. Here are some more examples as to why startups fail. If you don't have an agreement between founders for who will do what to earn their ownership, then you might find yourself in the common boat of one founder doing little work and expecting an equal share, while another founder is working hard to pick up the slack and ending up doing most of the work. This can lead to fighting and failures on the team and in the entity. Accountability is critical. As a rule of thumb for agreements, if it isn't written, it isn't real or defensible in a court of law. If you choose a bad location, you'll experience the following consequences: inability to recruit the best talent to the location, high cost of living, punishing taxes, lack of government support, lack of investors willing to invest in that location, lack of infrastructure in the area for what you're trying to accomplish, and more. Put some honest thought into the optimal location to operate your entity and be willing to move to that place to build the entity. Don't fail purely because you wanted the startup to be built where you wanted rather than where it was best for the startup. Did you know that one of Course alumnus lost millions in money and talent over time because of starting in the wrong location? After finally relocating to the right place, his entity is thriving and shareholders are significantly happier. Make the right choice now and save yourself money and time. You also might be wondering about buzzwords such as equity, ownership, shares, vesting, clawbacks, cliffs, shareholders agreements, and more. We got you covered. Here is a list of some of the basics. Equity. Equity actually means the difference in the value of an asset. Example, a house, a car, a machine, a patent, or anything else that could be traded, bartered, sold, or acquired, and any associated debts. When there's more value in the asset than there are debts, then there is positive equity. If the debts are greater than the value in the assets, then there is negative equity. When people talk about equity, they typically mean what they own, and they typically frame equity as a percentage, but occasionally as a money value. You might also have heard of sweat equity, which is equity that a co-founder earns as a result of that co-founder's hard work. Shares and stock. A stock is a share. When an entity is created, a number of shares are created. There could be one share, like one piece of pie that is in fact the whole pie, or there could be millions of shares, which mean the pie is cut into millions of equally sized pieces. When investors put money into an entity in exchange for a share of the entity, they typically buy a percentage, which can be expressed as numbers of shares, but it's the percentage that actually matters. A founder earns a percentage, a share, or number of shares. And employees might earn a percentage, or their share, which could be expressed as a number of shares. Not all shares are equal in legal protection, even though they might represent an equal percentage or value of the entity. Preferred or premium shares typically have legal protections, while common or ordinary shares typically have no legal protections. For example, in the event of an entity failing and being sold off for whatever amount is possible, the preferred or premium shareholders would typically receive payment before common or ordinary shareholders. Clawback. A clawback is a special contractual clause typically included in investment contracts by which money already paid or shares already distributed must be paid back or recovered under certain conditions. Most of the conditions are related to promised performance targets. Cliff. A cliff is a probationary period, typically 12 months. If a person leaves for any reason before the completion of the cliff, then they typically leave with no equity or ownership. This clause is present in vesting contracts as discussed earlier. If any of this sounds too complicated, feel free to reach out to one of our mentors. They would be happy to guide you through the concept. The same goes with any topic through this course. Our mentors are there to address any questions you may have. Well, we've reached the end of this lesson. In summary, think. Where should you incorporate? Where should you operate? Which lawyer, accountant, or corporate secretary should we use? Then, think about the entity and domain names. Make sure that you create an agreement between the founders sooner rather than later so that there's no confusion. Be careful not to fall into the common trap of designing your website, business cards, and distributing fancy job titles such as CEO, CTO, Vice President of this and that before you lay the best foundation possible for your entity.